Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. So we're at the start of September, the start of spring down here in the southern hemisphere. I love spring when you start to see things that start to grow again. This month's theme, it's about pens that are $100 to $200 in price. I don't have many of them. In fact, we're going to be having them all in this month's collection. But I do like to try them out and really see how they work. And I will be honest, I do notice a difference between these and a number of the cheaper pens I have. So this is a way for me to explore them. Now, sneak peek for next month. Next month, I'm going to be doing some really affordable pens. At the moment, I'm hoping that they'll all be under $20, but until I sort through my collection, I'm not 100% certain on that. So keep an eye out for next month's video, especially if you like the less expensive pens. So join me now, down on the mat. We'll look at the pens, we'll look at the inks, and we'll do a brief writing sample. So welcome down to the mat. Time to take a look at the pens that I'm going to be using during September of 2021. So the first pen is a Laban 325. This is in the Cambridge brown colour. Just look at this colour here. I'm just going to slowly turn this around. We've got browns, we've got yellows, we've got oranges, got creams, but we've also got this gorgeous, look at that, the chatoyancy that's coming off that. This is a really nice pen. Just going to quickly take it out, there we go. So look at that, nice nib there, number 6 size I believe. Cartridge converter pen, cartridge converter there, it's actually marked Laban. Really nice pen. The ink that I'm going to be using in here is by Diamine, and it's Diamine Ochre. So to me, this ochre, very similar family to the pen. Let me fetch that pen over and pop it on top. There we are. We can see some of the colours, certainly in this lovely pattern here, coming out in the ochre. I've used this Diamine Ochre in a number of pens in the past, and I often see a nice bit of shading coming through. So that's something I'm hoping that we'll see as I go through the month with this pen. So this pen is the Laban 325. As I say, I'm not going to write the pattern, but it's Cambridge brown. And this was $147. So slap bang in the middle of our range. The ink, Diamine Ochre. Now before I do my drying times, we can already see there's some shading coming through already in here. Look at the E there, the B, the A, the 5 even. So I'm hoping that this is going to be a nice month with lots of character in the writing. Let's do our drying times. So we go immediate, fairly wet there, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, then finally, having to go onto a new line for this, 1 minute. After a minute, it's still smudging a little bit, so not the fastest drying ink, but still it's not going to be one which will cause me too many issues when I'm doing my note taking. I'm going to call out again, look at the shading coming through, really like the look of this. The nib on this, I should have told you at the start, shouldn't I? I don't know, silly Gary, he should be fired. It's a broad nib. One of the things you'll see across this month's pens, all but one, are broad nibs. I'm really getting into broad nibs at the moment. But anyway, this is the Laban 325 with Diamine Ochre. Pen number 2 for this month is the Opus 88 Koloro. This is the blue on blue pattern. It's a broad nib. So unlike the patterning of that previous pen, this is fairly plain in that respect. We've got ebonite here, which is the blue. It's then saying blue here. Now to me this is more of a greeny colour, more of a greeny blue. We've got some more of ebonite. We come down here, we've got that plastic, that greeny blue. Can't really see it too much because of the ink in it. At the end we've got this ebonite end cap. This pen is an eyedropper, and what this end cap does is it seals off the section from the main barrel, so if you fly in and you have an issue with pressure, you don't lose everything. I'm going to make sure that it's open. For what I'm doing now, it's not going to cause much of an issue, but if this was to be closed, once you've finished writing out the ink in the section, the pen's going to stop writing. It's a smaller nib though. It's a nice nib to write with, which we'll see in a second, but it's smaller. It's got Opus 88 there on the actual nib itself. The section, again, it carries on through with the plastic from the rest of the body. The ink in here is by Troublemaker inks, and it's called Opon Channel Blue. Now, I've got to be honest, I do actually usually notice a difference here between the ink when I'm writing and the colour of the swatch, and this is one of the ones where, to me, it's really noticeable. Just going to fetch the pen in. If we look at the green part of the plastic, that really picks up nicely though with the colour of this ink. Again, that broad nib means it writes really well. So here we have an Opus 88, Calora, with a broad nib, and this one was $120. The ink, Troublemaker, Opon Channel Blue. Oh, it just about fits, doesn't it? So I'm just going to fetch the pen in so we can see it next to that ink. You know, as I say, on the card, it looks a lot more greener to me. On here, it's got that bit more blue in it though. I like this ink. I like this pen. It's really nice to write with. We'll see how it goes during the month. Not as much character coming through as I was getting in that Laban. There's a little bit of shading, but not that much. I also think there's a little bit of feathering coming through on this. I'd have to have a closer look, but it just seems to me, you know, this K looks like there's feathering. The L, the B, I'm going to have to keep an eye out with that. And this is one I need to see what it's like on various different papers to see if there is any feathering coming through. Let's look at our drying times. Immediate. 10 seconds. So that seems to be drying faster than the Diamine Ochre already. 30 seconds. Finally, 1 minute. After a minute, again, there's still a little bit of a smudge coming off it when I swipe over. Not as much, again, as what I'm seeing on the Laban, but it's still there. But it's a really nice colour. It really is. I seem to be navigating towards these colours, you know, where you've got that hint of green in with the blue. I really like them. But this is the Opus 88 Calora with Troublemaker Opon Channel Blue. The next pen, well, I'm not certain if it's going to fit on the camera. It's the big boy. It's the Ranga Model 5. This is a big pen. I'm going to move it onto the paper so I can lay it down so hopefully you can see the full size of it. Now, I lay it diagonally. It is big. I'm just going to fetch in that Koloro just so you've got an idea for the size. Look at that next to it. It really is. But for all its size, it's a lovely pen to write with. It's really nice. The pattern is called Green Stripe. Just look at that. It really is pretty. It's an acrylic pen. It's not an ebonite. If I take the top off, you can see here the actual writing part of the pen is still big, but it's a lot smaller. You know, look at that. Can you post it? Not really. It's quite wobbly posted. Given the size of it, why would you post it? Unless maybe you didn't know what to do with the cap. It's got the Ranga nib, which is just a steel nib. It's got that gold and that steel colour. This pen, at the moment, I use it with a cartridge converter, which did come with the pen. So this is a Schmidt, I believe. But look at this. Everything is acrylic. It's got a really big body, so you could very easily eyedropper this. I mean, look at the number of threads as well. That wouldn't hurt. I would just put a bit of silicone grease on first, although there is actually some on there. But yeah, it's a big pen. Surprisingly comfy to write with though for all of its size. So the ink in here is Robert Oster Ryde Green. I do very much try and match my inks to the pen colours. Sometimes I do go completely different because it's nice to be adventurous. But with this, I thought, well, I'm going to go green. It's not exactly the same green as what we're seeing in the body. You know, looking at it here, this is looking a bit more tealy rather than actual true green. Still nice though. But I thought, yeah, it's a nice colour. It's an ink. I got a bottle of it and my wife is looking at using this for decorating Christmas cards. So I thought, well, this is a good chance to show her how it writes. So let's move that out of the way. So here we have a Ranga Model 5. Again with a broad nib. This was $142. The ink, Robert Oster Ryde Green. It's the first time I've used this ink in a pen and I'm really enjoying it. It's nice and light. It's a bright green so you can really see it. Again, I am seeing though some shading coming through. Look at the first E and the top of the second E, the number 2. The top of that D, the top of the L. So there's a little bit of shading coming through as we look through that writing. Drying times, immediate. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. Almost dry at 30 seconds. For completion, 1 minute. So after a minute, there we go. So this is going to be really good for taking my notes with. And as I say, it looks big, but it feels ever so comfy to write with. So this, it's the Ranga Model 5 with a broad nib and Robert Oster Ryde Green. My next pen for this month, let me just reposition the paper so we can actually see it writing. This is a TWSBI Vac 700R in the iris pattern. Again, it's got a broad nib. This is a really pretty pen. Just look at the colours of this. I think they call it a flame effect. We can see it here around the top on the clip, especially here around the bottom of the cap. You know, so I've got some silver, then we go into purples, we've got pinks, there's greens, there's blues, and the colours change depending on how you've got the light shining on it. Really pretty. Other than that, it's a transparent demonstrator. Look, you can see there's not a lot of the ink left in here. I've been using this for a while and I'm expecting it to run out during the month. And when it does, I'm not sure what ink I'm going to put in it, but I will refill it. This is a vacuum filler, hence the name Vac 700. To fill it, you would completely unscrew this top cap here, pull it out, which pulls the plunger. You push the plunger down, it's creating a vacuum behind the plunger. When you get virtually to the bottom, which is hopefully you can see the line, it widens out slightly, which releases the vacuum and sucks the ink into the barrel. It's another one with a gorgeous nib. Look at that. It's got that iris effect on there as well. I'm not sure, but I would say this is likely a number 6 nib, but it's really pretty anyway. Similar with the Koloro. To write, you need to have this valve open. I'm going to just work this because we can see it, so hopefully you can see it on the camera. I'm going to close the valve, and as I do, it's pushing the plunger down. And that's sealing the section off from the body. When I release it, you should see that plunger slowly come up. I don't have problems with this where it stops the ink flowing. On a couple of vacuum fillers I do have, I really struggle because the plunger seems to stop the ink from flowing from the rest of the body down, and it does it all the time, so I need to be constantly working the plunger. With this one, don't have that issue. Let me just close it down a bit. There we go. Make sure it's right for writing. Let's take a look at the ink. The ink I've chosen is by Lamy, and it's Lamy Rhodonite. So this is a really nice pink ink, but it's got a bit of a gold sheen to it. I don't know if you can see that coming through. Now, why it's got this ink in it, my stepdaughter said to me the other month about, have I got any pink inks? And I just got a sample of this, and it quite astonished her when I put in the pen and started writing with it. So it was, yeah, quite an interesting little just a little story about how this ended up in this pen. Let's do the writing there. So we've got a TWSBI Vac 700 and it's iris. It's broad. And this cost, I'm going to have to go into the column, $130. The ink is Lamy. The family is crystal. And it's Rhodonite. As you can see, nice bright pink ink. Not a lot of shading coming through at the moment. It's not something I've really noticed whilst I've been using this ink in this pen, but it's something I will watch for as I'm going through. Drying times, immediate, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, finally 1 minute. After a minute, tiny little smudge still coming off, but again, it's not been enough to stop me from writing notes with it. So this is the TWSBI Vac 700R Iris with Lamy Crystal Rhodonite. Again, let me just reposition the paper. Let's go all the way up, so we've got there room for the last two. The fifth pen I'm going to be using this month is by Visconti, and it's a Visconti Breeze. So this is a steel nibbed pen. The colour of this is blueberry. To me, blueberry is a lot darker. But you can maybe see some little tiny bits of darkness in there, but really not that much. It's a really nice pen to look at, I've got to be honest. The acrylic in it, really nice to feel. It's the first Visconti I've had. Well, it's the only Visconti I've got. I've only had this now about a month, but it's so nice. I've enjoyed writing with this so much. If you take a look at the nib, again, it's a smallish nib. I think it's the cheapest Visconti you can get, so you can understand that. And again, this one, cartridge converter. There we go. The cartridge there is labelled Visconti. The cap is weird. It's like a magnetic system. So you get there and you can let go and it will just jump into place. It's a bit of fun that. Confused me the first time I tried to take the cap off though. Just pop that down there. We'll take a look at the ink. The ink is one of my favourite turquoises. It's Noodler's Navajo Turquoise. I love the colour of this ink. Every time I've had this in a pen, the ink has just been so bright, so in your face. Such a nice colour. Again, let's fetch that pen in. Not an exact match when we see it on the sample card here. When we see it writing, the ink, to me, is an awful lot brighter. And we'll have a look at that in a second. But yeah, I think, again, this is a nice match in ink. It's one of those where I've deliberately gone for a colour match. So the pen we've got here is a Visconti Breeze. Again, broad nib. This one, it's the most expensive pen for this month. It's $164. That's Aussie dollars. The ink, Noodler, Navajo, Turquoise. As you see with the writing, I think that does fetch more of a match to what the pen is. Definitely seeing shading coming through. Look at the Q, the S, the E, the O, the U, the A in Navajo, the capital N in Noodler. See quite a lot of character coming through in this. So again, it's one I'm looking forward to writing with during the month. Let's test our wetness. Immediate. Fairly wet. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. Then finally 1 minute. After a minute, still smudging a little bit there. But look at the colour of the ink. It's so pretty. It's so nice to look at. So after a minute, still smudging there. But look at the colour of the ink. Isn't that really nice and bright? Anyway, this is the Visconti Breeze in the blueberry pattern with Noodler's Navajo Turquoise. So the final pen, I'm going to be cheating a little bit here. I've run out of all the pens that cost me more than $100 but less than $200. The final pen is a Narwhal Schoolkill. This is in the Porpita navy. Now the pen itself cost me $89, but how I'm sneaking this in is I bought this pen with a flex nib and just could not get on with that flex nib. So I ordered from Pen Chalet a medium nib, which cost $15. So that means in total the pen cost $104. And so I thought, yep, the total price is over $100. That'll do me. It's a lovely colour pen. I mean, just look at that. You've got blues there. You've got browns, you've got gold, you've got that silver there, that silver chatoynes. Such a pretty pen. Take that off. You know, the nib, it's a Pen Chalet nib. I got it in black. And I think the black looks quite nice with this. And it was really easy to change. It took me all of about 30 seconds to change the nib. You know, I was expecting it to take me ages because it's the first time I've done it. But no, quickly in, quickly out, all done. One of the things I like about the Schuylkills, I'm deliberately trying to hide the ink colour from you, is the ink window so you can see how much ink is it left to make sure you've got enough for whatever writing you're going to be doing that day. So the ink in here, I'm expecting you to all shout, Gary, you're nuts. Diamine Blaze Orange, a really vibrant, bright orange ink. This is one of the ones where I thought, I'm going to go for something different. You know, look at the blues and the colours in there and that orange ink. Surprisingly though, it works really well together. It's a really nice combination. I think because it's so different than the darkness of the actual body that it just seems to fetch life to it. I'll try and get the ink down because there's not a lot left. So it's one of the ones where I will be replacing the ink. There we go, you can see the orange ink there. And when you see it through the ink window, again, it actually looks not too bad with the pen. Really like it. Lovely combination. So here we have a Narwhal Schoolkill with that Pen Chalet medium nib. I'm going to have to go over here. So it's $89 plus $15. So that gives me $104. The ink, Diamine Blaze Orange. Again, this is a lovely ink. You can see some shading coming through already. This is another one. I want to explore it a little bit more. I think I'll be changing the ink in here. So as I say, I might go back to a blue ink. Not 100% certain because I do love this combination. But I like to also play around with the inks. So when we come to the end of the month, I do my wrap up. Be interesting to see what's left in there. Drying times. Immediate. I've still got a bit of blue on my finger. I do wipe my hands off between pens and inks. I'll just give it another quick clean. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. Nice and dry there already. 1 minute. After a minute, lovely and dry. Looking forward to spending some more time with this combination. White's got the Blaze Orange in. I actually had that in when I was still using a flex nib. That's it, I just gave in. And it was fairly easy to change it whilst the ink was in there. I just stood it up to make sure that the ink didn't end up going all over the place. Not sure if I mentioned, this pen here, it's a piston filler. Here's a piston knob. I'm just going to slightly turn it. Not going to turn it enough to actually trigger it. I don't want orange ink all over my hands. But yeah, this is the Narwhal Schoolkill in Porpita Navy with a Pen Chalet medium nib and Diamine Blaze Orange ink. I'm just going to clear this off and then I'll fetch all the pens in so we can have one final look at them. So here we are, the pens I'm going to be using during September of 2021. Laban 325 in Cambridge Brown with Diamine Ochre ink, an Opus 88 Koloro in the blue pattern with Troublemaker Opon channel blue. It doesn't even fit in the camera and doesn't fit in the tray either. It's the Ranga Model 5 with Robert Oster Ryde green. The TWSBI Vac 700R Iris with Lamy crystal Rhodonite. The Visconti Breeze in that blueberry pattern with Noodler Navajo Turquoise, and the Narwhal Schoolkill Porpita Navy with that Pen Chalet medium nib and Diamine Blaze Orange. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What are your thoughts on these pens and inks? Do you have any similar ones? Are there any within this price range which you would recommend for other people? Why not drop a comment down below? Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Liking and commenting helps so much with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.